Well, there has been many different alliances throughout the years. Obviously, RWA, which is still the biggest one in our wrestling, but others have followed, like UWA, RW, MWA, etc. Given that UWA and MWA are gone, RWA has reduced its shows all over again, and seemingly RWO is on the rise all over again. The future's, of course, uncertain. Do you believe that making alliances even makes sense these days, or do you believe it's maybe a lost cause?
So whenever the RWA was getting really big, and especially when the NWA was around at the time, um, I do believe it was helping because feds like RCW and APRW were getting involved with the alliances, and sometimes they would bring in a very low level fed, and that fed would eventually get more popular because a lot of big names would start to go there, and their production value would go up because other developers from these other federations would come and work with these other smaller promotions. But as years went on, especially around 2020, like late 2020, the alliances they kind of went to shit, if I'm being honest, um, because it was instead of elevating everyone involved, it turned into a power trip behind the scenes where like they are constantly changing leadership now, and it wasn't sticking.
Let's remind
And
people that throughout the last 9 months, there have been like four lead executives with the RWA. Firstly, Chris Knight has resigned, then came Ace. Following that was Mint and Tyken sharing the role, and finally landing with Raimundo approximately 2 3 months ago. But it was a constant power play throughout the entire process of the past 9 months.
involved. I don't remember who was running the show back then. Um, but there was the situation. You remember? Do you remember? Rated Julius. He had a. I forgot the name of his fed, but you remember Julius?
Yes, I do. EWF, I believe.
Yes, it was EWF.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know if you remember the controversy behind what happened with the RWA and Julius, but it was just a power trip, and basically he wanted to take control of the RWA. I mean, he tried to create his own alliance. He tried to do this and that. I mean, nothing really stuck. But when all of that went about, Marlocks, if that was the owner at the time, I could be wrong. Um, he stepped down, and then Chris Knight stepped up, and I think everyone collectively chose Chris Knight because out of everyone in that staff for the RWA at the time, Chris Knight was the most level-headed, and I think he did a fantastic job running the RWA. And honestly, I think if he was still doing it now, the RWA would still be afloat. I mean, yes, there was issues under Chris Knight, but I mean, there's been issues under every owner of the RWA. So I mean, it's no surprise. Personally, if you want my honest opinion, I would like to see all alliances go away just to see what it would be like without alliances. I mean, it might actually be fun to see like federations try to actually fight for that number one spot instead of trying to work with each other. Like, I think that would be very interesting.
Let's also point out that there are a lot of big feds these days. Like every fed which is being hosted by pretty much known person is getting known as well. Let's say OPRW, which isn't on the scene for a couple of years. Well, 3 years, 4 years probably. And it has grown to become the number one federation in wrestling right now. And it wasn't in an alliance for a long time.
No, it was not.
So yeah, it just shows that a federation can't grow without an alliance.
Man, I want to say this about ATG and OPRW. I don't think I have met a single Fed owner who has been more dedicated to what they're doing than ATG. I mean, honestly he never gave up. He never did. I mean, there's been federations that will do a this is our last show, like we're done after this, and then a couple months later they're like we're coming back. This is our return show. ATG never did that. He always stuck by it. I mean, there were times where he would hop on Twitter and be like, "Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do this anymore," but he never officially called it quits. And he always wanted to be in an alliance. And look at him now; he's killing it.
Well, OPRW is killing it for sure. OPRW Mania, which is in April, I believe, it looks up to be the biggest event of 2024. And for my personal dealing with ATG, he's a good dude. I mean, like, he's not hard to work with. He's very easy to work with and very easy to negotiate with. He knows what he's
Very
doing.
open minded. Very
Yeah,
open minded
very
guy.
open minded. He knows what he's doing.
I got a lot of respect for ATG and the guys that he works with. Um, OPRW was like the last federation that I worked with when it came to like doing stuff for shows and with like being on screen and whatnot. It was like a little stint, maybe like 2 or 3 months. I remember I was like managing people and I was doing my own thing, but I wasn't like wrestling or anything myself. But I had a fun time working with ATG and OPRW. It was fun, and I'm very proud of them.
I would also want to point out that OPRW Mania is going to be broadcasted on this very network. We have reached an agreement like a couple of weeks ago, so
Well,
it's gonna be a big
congratulations to
deal.
you on that.
Thank you very much. I didn't want to brag or anything like that, but I needed to point out you need to check it out. This is gonna be an
Trust
amazing
me,
show.
trust me. Don't ever think you're bragging or whatnot. I mean, if you think you've earned it, then go for it, man. I mean, congrats, you earned it.
Let's hope it will be good.